All right, everybody, welcome to this Pink Cloud. I am DJ Kelly Reverb. We are a show that is about multiple pathways to recovery, mental health, all that good stuff. I'm very excited today. Speaking of mental health, my good friend, Chad LeMans, everybody.
No.
You're not here?
Mm-mm. Hello.
Hey.
Hello?
Hi, I'm just happy to be here. I've been here a while. I'm just happy to be here today.
And you'd like to eliminate
I'd like to dedicate this song to the... we're not dedicating a song? Oh, we're doing a podcast.
No, it's good to be here, or whatever.
All right, dude. Or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whatever. Well, anyway, it's been a while. So how have you been, Chad?
Busy.
Yeah? Oh, good.
Why
don't
if
you
were
tell
French,
us how busy you are?
If you were French, it would be pronounced busy.
How about if we were German or Austrian?
It would be pronounced busy.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's good.
Yeah, man. I've just been doing stuff. Things and stuff. A lot of cool stuff happening.
Things and stuff and cool stuff. All right. Well, anyway, I'm excited to have this young man on the show, fresh off of his dental surgery. Everybody give it up for Aaron Stacey. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well.
You actually work in recovery at Banyan, right?
Yeah, Banyan Treatment Centers.
Okay, cool.
So we do mental health and substance use primary treatment.
And that's how you got to know Chad, because of his mental health issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked him up, side of the road one day.
Hey, man,
you wouldn't be the first, brother. You wouldn't be the first.
That could have been a reality, dude. Chad has a one-eyed hooker story that he could tell you about. That's
she had good dope, dude. She had good dope.
There we go. Anyway, but so usually what we do is we, just have you tell your backstory so that people can get to know you, and then we talk about solution. But let's hear it, dude.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, you guys invite me to do this. And, I've watched many of your podcasts with some close friends of mine. And,
shout out Parker.
Great. Yeah, Parker.
Yeah.
D-Town Custom Jewelers.
Love it.
Yeah, he's a family to me. So, and he's actually a big part of my story, and me starting to really see like how this recovery stuff works,
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually grew up in Maine.
Oh wow,
the state of Maine.
Right.
Middle class family, great parents.
I was gonna set you up with a banger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you?
My dad's sister lives there. I grew up in a town called Buxton, Maine, which was featured in the movie Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, nice.
So when Andy Dufresne and
well, Chad, wake up, dude. That's your Morgan Freeman cue.
Oh, what?
He just said he grew up in a town where it was about Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
Wow. There was a point in time where all people, even you, would have looked at me and thought, wow, what a Shawshank of a redemption.
That's my Morgan Freeman impression. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Anyway, sorry about that.
Yeah, so, Shawshank Redemption, it's about Maine State Prison. But there's a town when, I think Tim Robbins, is that who played Andy Dufresne? Yeah, he escapes and he buries some money in a cemetery in a town called Buxton, Maine.
Ah.
Well, that's where my parents got married. So at that cemetery, there's a church at the end of it. That's where my parents were married. That's the town I grew up in.
Oh, wow.
My mother grew up in the house across the street from the church, know. Yeah, so I grew
buried it by the tree.
Yeah, he did.
On the stone wall.
Right.
I remember it.
Right. So when Morgan
Did you ever see Stephen King?
Never met him in person.
Okay.
Been by his house a few times, visiting my aunt. It definitely meets, the criteria of what you think his house would look like.
It looks like it. That's funny.
Yeah, gargoyle. All
Oh,
kinds of
really?
stuff.
Wow.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna have to look
yeah,
it up.
yeah, yeah. Also, the UFC guy Dana White, he's from Bangor, Maine.
Oh, wow, dude.
Yeah,
That's cool. I
yeah.
always wanted to go, and I've never been. So who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's beautiful in the
Yeah.
summer, or
Right.
if you like the fall. Cooper
Right.
Flag, Dallas Maverick,
Ah, there
was
we go.
drafted. Yeah,
Nice.
Maine guy. What was it? Anna Kendricks. She's a Maine girl.
Right.
Yeah. So we got a few people
Right.
that have made
Lobster
it.
Duclaws. That's
Yeah,
a Maine.
Lobster
That's a Maine guy.
Duclaws.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Maine guy. So then you got me.
Right. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
Lobster Duclaws. That was pretty good.
That was good, dude. You can admire that later. I'll clip that out for you, and you can just listen to that over and over, Chad. So anyway, but so you grew up in Maine, and then
Yeah, so I grew up in Maine. Good family, two older brothers. Really at a young age, I did a lot of cool stuff. But played sports. Baseball, basketball. I actually raced go-karts on like an amateur circuit up in Maine. My dad was heavily involved with racing most of my life. Owned a couple cars.
Right.
And, raced on all the local tracks, and they were successful locally. And so I grew up around racing and raced for a long time. I'd say though, even probably 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Got home from school. I remember always kind of having a lot of social anxiety as a kid.
Sure.
Feeling
which we all do.
Yeah, which is pretty normal. But
Mhm.
I think I just remember being in this constant state of like lack of confidence, social anxiety. Kind of feeling like I had friends, but were they really my friends? Like, in comparing myself to my other friends, like, am I really as good as them? Do people really like me? It was just this kind of conflicted mindset I had. And I remember when I was 13, I went over to my best friend Josh's house after school, and, RIP, passed away a few years back of a fentanyl overdose. But we went over to his house, and I remember him and his older brother were smoking a joint, and I remember smoking for the first time, and I was like, I never want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of just made me feel confident. It made me feel on top of the world. I just loved it. I loved it. From
Right.
day one,
You had arrived.
Had arrived. And
right.
and then I figured out how to get it every day after that. I mean, literally.
Go to Stephen King's house, man.
Yeah, mow grass, whatever,
Right.
Steal, whatever we did, to do that. Shovel snow in the winter, whatever we did, we figured it out, right?
Sure.
We, did that every day. And I remember I grew up with a guy, and his family was from Venezuela, and he was a good friend of mine. He moved to Maine when we were probably, I don't know, third grade.
Okay.
But his mom used to make this wine, homemade wine.
Right. Can't go wrong there.
So I remember we're over there smoking with him and his brother one night. We decided to go down. Well, then quickly introduced alcohol, right? So now it's marijuana and alcohol. And everything, as addiction being so progressive, everything progressed pretty quickly for me at a young age.
Sure.
I had a friend of mine who was, he was a distant cousin, through our family. He was a James Dean impersonator. He actually looked just like young James Dean, like Rebel Without a Cause.
Oh, so it's Chad. That Chad does that as a side hustle.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been working on my James Dean impression. Ready?
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. I don't know how he talks.
Spot on.
That was pretty close, dude. If he had Down syndrome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no.
And so
a James Dean impersonator. That's
and he was
not
an
an everyday thing.
cousin. He was like, he was down the tree. I don't know if it was like third cousin or something. My family's huge. My family's really big. And so anyway, he had me start selling weed for him.
Oh, nice, dude.
So now I can support my habit, and
James Dean impersonator had you slinging weed for him.
Yeah, and he was a weed dealer. That's where we used to buy it, right? And and then slowly but surely, that escalated as we got
Right.
older. He's like, here, sell this white powder for us.
He
Here.
introduced me to an Elvis impersonator.
Right, right. Yeah.
And he had me slinging heroin in no
Right,
time, man.
right. I know. And then it
That's
became cocaine, right?
uh-huh.
And so then cocaine. And then I remember, it was just an occasional thing for a while. Life was still pretty manageable. Things were moving along, no trouble, still, doing well in academics, participating in my hobbies, things I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
But just one day, I remember we had a big party in the neighborhood. And I had listened to this Masta P album.
Okay.
Which
called
one?
Ghetto Dope.
Yeah.
Born to Roll, right?
Ghetto Dope.
Oh, okay.
And I was a chef too at the time. I was doing some cooking and
Okay.
not drug related.
How old are you at this point?
Oh, I'm probably 16, 17. I've
Okay.
been working in a kitchen since I was
Right.
13, doing
Yeah.
dishes under the table, doing
Right.
prep for my buddy's uncle. It was a really big restaurant up in Alfred, Maine he owned. And
Okay.
he put us to work young, so I was working young
Sure.
and learning some skills and, developing some things there. And
Right.
I was doing a little Italian cuisine at this time. That's what I was starting to learn more of.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I got measurements from doing prep. So I'm listening to the Masta P album, Ghetto Dope, and he tells you how to cook crack.
Yeah,
Okay.
dude.
So I'm like, well, I grabbed an ice cream scoop out of the guy's, kitchen, and he had baking soda, and I followed the recipe, and I did it. Well, that was the day my life really started to change. I'm 16 years old, and now I'm smoking crack cocaine.
Okay, so I gotta just stop right there.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing that you learned how to cook or manufacture crack from a Masta P album. I just want to point that
I wonder
out.
how many people
Yeah.
probably did the same thing.
I know. I never met anyone that admitted it.
Did
but
he
that's,
give measurements and everything?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he did?
Yeah,
Okay.
go listen to it after we hang up.
Yeah.
It's
I will. Yeah.
I listened to it. I did it. It worked.
What
And
was the song called?
Make crack like this. Yeah.
That's great. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
And
We need to remix
so
that.
Yeah.
you should. You should do a techno house
Right.
music version. Yeah, and
That's
so
great.
then that's the day my life changed.
Okay.
From that point forward, it no longer became something that was fun and that we were just experimenting with and doing as a group. It became now I'm doing this every day, with that addictive personality. Now I'm trying to figure out how I support this, which I did for a long time successfully.
Right. Well, if you can manufacture it, then if you're the Walter White, then you've got your income right there.
But it's expensive habit to have, no matter what time, it is. And
Right.
My little game of, selling marijuana and doing all that, my cocaine or crack habit was way bigger. I couldn't keep up with it. Right.
Okay.
And then a year goes by and my mother intervenes on me, and she worked in the addiction space too in Maine, for a very well-known addictionologist and chronic pain doctor, who was on the board of directors for a well-known nationally known nonprofit treatment center.
Okay.
And he was also their medical director at
So
a Florida location.
your mom was in the addiction.
Yeah, she was his personal assistant and office manager.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
this guy's name was Dr. Stanley Evans. He passed away several years ago.
Okay.
And so my mom intervenes on me. She comes up to my room one day and says, "Aaron, what's going on? You look thin. You look, your skin color's terrible. Your attitude's all over the place." And it was,
Right.
I mean, I was angry all the time. I was, this restless, irritable, and discontent, whether
Sure.
I was high or sober. Right. And I was just living a weird life, in and out of the house, late hours. And she says, "What's going on? It's evident something's going on." And I told her, I was honest with her. I said, I've been, smoking crack, and I've had a cocaine addiction and crack addiction, and it's been going on for over a year. It's getting pretty bad, And she goes, "Well, look, you want to get some help?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get some help, And so I ended up going to a treatment facility in Wernersville, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Where
That
Doctor.
Amish country.
It is. It is
Nice.
actually. Some people
Okay.
that would AMA from that facility, the Amish, would contact the facility because they knew that
Right.
they were coming from there,
Hey,
right?
wait.
And
Sure.
so,
Okay, so I don't understand this. They make fireplaces, but they don't have electricity, and the fireplaces are electric. Now they're using phones. You know what I mean?
well,
I
Are
I
don't
you,
believe
get
some
it.
of the. I think some of the Amish do have phones.
this?
I think.
So
Yo,
you're,
dude,
this
times
is just
have changed, dude.
Well, I was 17. I'm 41 now.
Right.
So
Well, back then they would probably just see somebody escape and pull out the slingshot and just
They just send a homing
just
pigeon.
go, hey, we got one.
yeah, throw them in the buggy,
Right.
and drive them back up.
Sure.
Yeah. So I ended up in treatment. It was a beautiful campus.
Mhm.
Really good. Clinical team, all the good stuff. I mean, it was a great program. I got there and, I was a nervous wreck. They tried the AMA blocked me a few times, which they did. I ended up staying for the 30 days.
Mhm.
I learned a lot there. It was good education. I got healthy. I exercised, met some great people, met some good
Mhm.
staff, some people that really cared. But, as addiction is a family disease.
Mhm.
And I still believe that, look, the cocaine was the issue. It wasn't the marijuana.
Mhm.
I wasn't connecting the dots at that time. So I'm looking at cocaine's the issue. It's not, the marijuana is fine. So I have full
Right.
intentions of when I
Sure.
get out, I'm going to, smoke again.
Right. Yeah.
And so my parents are like, look, we want you to go to the extended care down in Florida. Ba, ba,
Mhm.
ba, ba, ba. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm good. I convinced them
Right.
I'm good. And I'm there on a full scholarship.
Mhm.
This place probably at the time $40,000 a month, right?
Oh yeah.
Easily.
Mhm.
And I'm grateful I went there. Probably was a big part of slowing me down a little bit, getting me educated,
Sure.
planting some seeds, right? There were
Right.
seeds planted. But I got out and just continued to smoke,
Sure.
and went back to the selling and hanging out with the same guys. And, that was my full intention. And about, I'd say 3 to 4 weeks went by. Well,
Mhm.
now that Purdue Pharma, the
Oh yeah.
heroin, all that's starting to
Some
oxy.
guy named Sackler showed up at your doorstep.
Right. And
Right.
so that was starting to pick up in the Northeast a lot. It was
Mhm.
just that first
Right.
wave of heroin and Roxy 30s. And
Right.
I meet a guy out at some place. We're all smoking weed and drinking, and he gets me a bundle of heroin. I did
Mhm.
heroin for the first time, and
Yeah, out
Well,
there they
so
got
did,
bundles, dude. They got no
yeah,
bundles out here.
were you doing oxy first and then
well,
graduated to heroin, or how did that
heroin,
go?
and
Yep.
then oxys started pumping in, so we started doing oxys, and we would
Ah.
do heroin or oxys,
Oh, okay.
back then. And then I get
So you
into
go. So basically, you went to rehab and you go, I'm going to quit meth, cocaine. That's it.
yeah,
Right. But then I'm going to still smoke weed, but I'm going to add heroin.
yeah, and that's not what I
Right.
planned on doing. I
Sure.
believe at my core I'm just going to smoke weed. Well,
Right.
you know,
Right.
and then next thing I'm presented with this, and I'm like, well, maybe. It's
Sure.
not as bad, and then you got people telling you that, well, crack, yeah, that's, you'll spend all your money in 3 days. This, you can spread it out over time. And,
Right. You can have a
so
long using career with
you can
heroin, right,
function a
Chad?
little more,
Right,
I
Chad?
mean, I was pretty good. I used it for a
Yeah.
while, for a little while,
Yeah. For a little
for a
while.
little while.
Yeah.
How long was your heroin career?
Oh, that lasted off and on till I was 24 between oxys and heroin. Yeah.
Okay, so that was from what age to what age? Like how many years?
What was that? About 6 years.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
this
About that.
shelf
pretty
lives
good
up.
career.
Shelf lives up north are better because it's not tar. You know what I mean?
No, it's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
It's
up
completely
there, it's
different.
China. It's China white.
You've
Yeah.
got that Canadian heroin.
You still got veins, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Yeah, it's different, and so I went in and out of rehab 2-3 more times
Mhm.
after that.
Mhm.
Ended up living down in South Florida for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up going to that program that they wanted me to do extended care in Florida.
Okay. Right.
Went down there, my mom intervened again. She's an angel,
Yeah.
Dr. Evans, complete angel. That guy is a pioneer in the state of Maine. And he really looked out for me and my family. And so, so I end up back down in South Florida. Great program. I get well. But this is the thing. I would get in treatment. And I always tell men and women I speak to, whether it's at 12-step meetings or just in general conversation about recovery, is that I got in this treatment center and I'm completely removed from drugs and alcohol. Right? I'm getting healthy. I'm putting some weight on. I'm exercising. I'm getting a little tan. I'm going out to the pool. Conversating, feeling a little more confident. But and at this time, when I go back there, I have a son now.
Oh, okay.
Who's a baby. He's
Wow.
a baby. He's maybe 8-10 months old, and he's 20 now. So,
right. So did that change your perception, or just life in general, or did you keep partying?
I kept partying, and then I needed to go to rehab because I wanted to be a good dad. Deep down inside,
okay.
I wanted to be a great dad. I wanted to be present. I just could not stop despite myself. Even though I promised everyone I would, I promised myself, I had, all these firm resolutions never to do it again. I would wake up and do it again. So now I'm back in treatment and I'm feeling a little healthier, feeling a little better. But now, without drugs and alcohol in my system, I'm obsessing about getting home to be a dad.
Okay.
That's all I can think about. Was I got to get out of here. So because I should really be home taking care of my son. I should really be working. I should be providing. And so I'm hung up on this idea the whole time I'm in there. It was weird. I later came to realize that was my disease trying to distract me from the solution, because I was there in front of the solution. Right?
It'll focus on anything and everything that it can except what's actually going on.
Right. And that's where the first time I realized, wow, maybe this has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. Just maybe, because I'm stone cold sober and all I can think about is me being a dad when I couldn't be a dad worth the crap because my life was so crazy, right? And I was doing heroin and cocaine and doing all these things. I was not consistent. I was not stable, even though.
Well, that's when some people get out and then they become Captain AA. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's kind of that scenario.
Yeah, it's
a safer alternative, but it will still fail.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
The point was, though, is that it's the mental obsession, just not showing up like a drink. It's not showing up like a heroin bag, or an Oxy, right? Or whatever your substance of choice is.
It's the next quick fix focus.
Yeah. And so what happened is I'm in that treatment center, and I meet this kid from Philly, and we start, coming up with a plan, how we're going to get out, right? How we're going to get back home.
Right.
He knew some people in Fort Myers. We conspire against all these, we have this plan. We're going to call this guy. He's going to sneak out to the payphone down the road, call this guy, schedule the time for pickup. Then there was some other kid from New York that had snuck $400 in. We're going to game him, get his money, tell him we're going to go buy drugs, and we're going to leave, right? So we end up leaving.
Okay.
But we're going to go and back to our homes, and we're going to be dads, and we're going to do all this stuff.
Right, but we're just going to do it in a really shady way to get there.
Yeah, it's crazy, and soon as that kid picked us up tonight, we have that money, we have all that stuff. We're not even in the car an hour. We're driving up to Fort Myers, and I'm like, "Hey, can you get some crack?"
Right.
And it was like that, right? But all this idea about me being a dad, obsessing about being a dad. Later on in hindsight, I see it now. I didn't see it as clearly then. I kind of starting to see it, but I didn't have any power. I wasn't in any type of solution. I was still trying to, live on my own accord, do it my way.
Right.
There was no level of surrender there or humility to follow direction or to deviate from Aaron's path in any way. So, as you know, wheels came
Well, I
off.
think that's a powerful thing that you brought up there, is because everybody always, tries to do it on their own terms and their way, and I mean, I see it all the time, and I'm sure you guys see it all the time when somebody else has a better idea of what their plan is. Like, for example, like Chad, is trying to help a friend of mine out, and and I'm like, okay, what Chad says, do that. Don't, because then what had happened is they AMA'd 10 days, and now they're right back at it, so it's
Hmm.
right back to the races. So
I know.
yeah.
And sometimes, I hate that the relapse happened.
Mm-hmm.
Grateful to be alive, grateful I got another opportunity to have a shot at it. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't.
Yeah, true.
And But I learned a lot, from all those treatment stays. I did learn a lot. Seeds were planted, and I was educated in a way that later on I was able to see it when I actually got sober and stayed sober,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I was able to see, like, okay, yeah, like this stuff applies, right? I remembered a lot of these things that I was taught, whether it was in 12-step meetings or a clinician,
Mm-hmm.
holding me accountable for something, or some behavioral health technician that was, spitting some truth to me about my behavior and about
Right.
how I'm showing up and how I view the world. And, so all those things I think were beneficial regardless if the relapse happened. I think those treatment centers allowed me to get healthy,
Mm-hmm.
get some education and get into a better spot. And I think they
Mm-hmm.
all meant well. I don't think I ever went to a bad treatment center. I think a lot
Right.
of people say that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes that's true. And sometimes I think it's to place blame
Right.
for their own
Well,
behavior,
right.
So I
Well,
chose to never do that.
All of Chad's rehabs that he went to in the beginning were all bad and fucked up, and it was their fault.
Oh,
Right.
duh.
Right.
Like, yeah, like
No, it
Brazos.
was
I mean,
Kelly's
come
fault.
on,
Dude, it was Kelly's
right?
fault. I had
It was
just
all
met
like
Kelly a few years before that. It was all his fault.
it was.
It still
Bad
It was.
is.
influence.
It still
It,
is
no,
his
it,
fault. Everything that
and
happens in my life is a direct result of being his fault.
and little Sheila too.
No. She's clear now. It's
Oh,
all you
she's
now.
cleared
It's
out.
all just you,
Me?
dude. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it.
Little
I'll take
Sheila
it.
is a saint.
She is. She's a goddamn saint. Don't ever talk about that woman again. Hey, let's take a break real quick, and we'll be right
Okay.
back. Hey guys, Kelly Reverb here. Yep, you guessed it. We have no sponsor. Hey, so if you want to be a sponsor of the show, be sure and hit me up on thispinkcloud@gmail.com. Also, hit the link tree, please. We could always use your support. There is a one-time donation. There is a monthly support button, all that stuff. Also, we're doing shout outs. So if you want a shout out, we can work that out. And if you want to be a guest, hit me up. All this good stuff can happen via email at thispinkcloud@gmail.com. All right, well, we appreciate your continued support. We always love you guys. All right, and we are back. And then we also have some new music out, and here it is.
Music is not about itself. Music is about balance.
All right, and that is our new music out, and it's doing quite well. If you want to follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff, you can just go to Kelly Reverb or Chad LeMans and give us a follow. Speaking of Chad LeMans, he had to go because he's a piece of shit. But other than that, no, he had some work to do. But anyway, so yeah, back to the exciting Aaron Stacey story.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Yeah. So I know where we left off was, I left, went to Fort Myers, relapsed immediately.
Uh,
Gained my family. I had this little boy at home about a year and a half or so,
mhm,
maybe now, um, that I'm trying to be a dad for. And,
mhm,
well, the wheels just came off again, and I ended up back in Florida at the same
mhm.
place after about
Right.
6 months.
Mhm.
Um,
Well,
and
how did that unfold? So y'all get out and then instantly hit the crack pipe, and
yeah,
then what was that 6 months off
well, I
of?
went back to Maine.
Hmm.
Lied to my mom like I always did,
You said,
convinced
"Oh,
her I'm
I'm good."
good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, get me a plane ticket, right? And
Hmm.
so she did, and I ended up back in Maine, and you know, things got real nasty with oxy, and
Hmm.
and crack, and methadone started coming into the scene, and
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it got real
What now was
ugly.
Suboxone around back then or no?
It was new.
Okay.
So it was newer when I was 19.
Hmm.
And I did go on it, but they were still figuring out how to dose it. They were still figuring out a lot of things back
Hmm.
then. They hadn't really mapped it out the way they have now to use it in a way
Sure.
that's like really helpful for people, and for
Right.
detox, and for guys that have overdosed a bunch, guys that are treatment resistant or lack
Hmm.
motivation, or, there's lots of reasons why people need to take it,
Sure.
because some of those people that are dealing with those types of things, it may keep them alive long enough till they get into the solution or get to a spot, or they may
Right.
need to be on it a while. I don't know. I
Sure.
don't really have an opinion on it.
Right.
God's bigger than me.
Hmm.
And, I'm not, in charge, but if people are
I mean,
happy and
I
living a good
just
life, you
right.
know,
I think it's I mean, look, it is what it is, but I think it's definitely safer. A safer alternative.
oh, for
Obviously,
sure.
we can at least give it that. But
For sure.
and you can feel any way you want about Matt, but I think Matt is better than the streets.
Or dead.
Yeah, or dead.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. I've lost a lot of friends that were, Matt candidates, man,
Mhm.
100%. Really good guys,
Mhm.
that I loved and cared about so much, and still
Mhm.
do, but it was sad, to see that happen, and them not ever really, or feed into the peer pressure of people saying you should never be on it. You're not really sober if you're on it,
Yeah.
and those are probably non-medical professionals saying that, but
Mhm.
it's, a lot of my friends fell into that stuff too. And,
Right.
they ended up dying from it, man. I don't blame
Sure.
anyone for that, but it's just, it's a danger as a fentanyl and,
Right.
heroin and any
Oh my
type
God.
of opiate, right?
Yeah.
So you
Well, and
never know.
I mean, I don't know personally, but I always hear sketchy stuff about methadone. That methadone is worse to kick than heroin.
Yeah, yeah, methadone. Just working in the field for the last 15 years, going on 16, and working for a detox. I know we had detox men and women off methadone, high
Hmm.
doses,
Yeah.
and it could be brutal depending on
Where you're
the
at, what you've
amount they were on coming
right.
in on, because you can't give them anything uh, for 3 days that's like Suboxone or anything, because it will put them into precipitated withdrawals. So
Yeah.
the first few days or so, they were in kind of a real rough spot,
Hmm.
and then it took time for them to even feel better. I would see, I mean, we had people in our care at that time for 25, 30 days getting them through that process. We
Right.
were dually licensed as a detox in a residential care when I worked for the detox, so we could do that,
Hmm. Right.
um, and that was the only appropriate way to do it,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's a tough one. So
Right.
I never had to go through that personally. I just watched other people, go through that, and it
Right.
seems very challenging.
Right. Well, I know
So
Chad when he went to jail, he actually had that, where they were going to put him on Suboxone and he started it, but then he was like, I don't want to just trade, so he went and did it all. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's
And I guess you're fortunate if you can, man, if you can kick without, um a like a safety rope or a safety net,
yep.
you know.
Oh yeah. No, it's yeah, so I guess, getting back to that, the fast
Mhm.
forward, a little bit because, we can get in the problem all day. I have lots of
Right.
problems. It was really dark path, for me.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up in homelessness, been to jail a few different times,
Right.
um, and it got pretty dark for me where I started to feel very hopeless. I had actually met a guy in AA who I love, dearly. He's like a brother to me, up in Portland, Maine.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't stay sober, but he was a former patient of my mom's at
Okay.
Dr. Evans. He knew my mom. It was kind of a crazy deal. I met him at an AA meeting, and he took a vested interest in me.
Mm-hmm.
He'd been sober a long time too, at the
Mm-hmm.
time. I think he's like, God, 25 years or something now. But
Right.
yeah, so I was just running the streets, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doing a bunch of stuff I shouldn't. And, you know, he called me one night. I'd been like living in my car.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I was done. Family was done. Mom and dad finally held some boundaries,
What
firm
what what
boundaries.
was the automobile? What were
Oh,
you?
you want to hear it? Yeah,
What
this
was
is
your
great.
house? Yeah.
I'm glad you asked this. It was a Chevy Cavalier.
Nice. What year?
Oh God, it had to have been a 2000 or something,
Mm.
99, 2000. Yeah.
Plush, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually a nice little
Yeah.
car though.
Right.
It was great. Especially when
Did it
you're
have a name?
no,
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 no
no.
name. Okay.
No, I didn't name it. Yeah.
Right.
No. It's funny, my
Yeah, it had a
sponsor
name.
would
It
be
was
like,
called
"Hey dude,
Home.
it was home." Yeah, my
Yeah.
sponsor later on in life, who was that man I'm telling you about, he
Mm-hmm.
said, "You had a Cavalier, dude, not a Mustang, okay?"
Right.
Yeah, you had a Cavalier.
That's funny.
So, but yeah, I'm living in that car. He was working as an East Coast consultant for a treatment center out in Kaufman, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And It was a long-term treatment center, which I ended up going to later. But he had been out in Jersey with the CEO at the time, this guy Mark, and I think Mark had lived out there. But they had been at some conference, addiction conference, and they had both come home. And I was up in Maine, living in my home, my car, with everything I own in it. And my dad's mother used to knit these Afghan blankets,
Okay.
and I had this Afghan blanket. I don't know if you know what that is, but
Yeah.
yeah. So some people have no clue what that is, but I had
Right.
it because I would shut the car off in the
Mm-hmm.
winter and put the blanket on me
Oh yeah.
because I was run out of gas, right? So I had to conserve the gas. I didn't have a bunch of money,
Right.
and so I'm sitting in my car. There's a nor'easter happening. We're getting killed with snow. I'm actually in
Mm-hmm.
Biddeford, Maine, on Summer Street,
Okay.
across from this Greek pizza shop called Pizza by Alex. It's my favorite pizza
Okay.
ever. I still eat there all the time when I go.
All right.
So I'm sitting there. We're getting crushed with snow, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't have much gas. I got probably, enough to drive one spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the phone rings and it's my buddy Mike,
Right.
and I had been planning on committing suicide that night.
Oh wow. Really?
And
Mm.
so I had a needle loaded with this, I think about 2 grams of cocaine. I
Mm-hmm.
had gone into a liquor store earlier that day and ran out with a handle or half handle of Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just trying to drink the courage up to
Mm-hmm.
inject myself and end it. And because I had gone to 3 treatment centers now at this point,
Right.
and I'm thinking I'm a cannot. I'm this guy
Mm.
that just can't get it. I'm too broken. I'm a failure as a father. My family doesn't want me around anymore, which they did, but they couldn't,
Right.
they
They
couldn't
had to
let
set
me.
boundaries. I get it.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had to set boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just thinking,
Mm.
everyone would be happier if I wasn't here, including myself,
Mm.
and that was the darkest spot I had ever been in my life.
Well, yeah. Well, did you ever did the thought of your son cross your mind?
It did, but I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm such a failure as a parent anyway.
He'd
Like
be
he'll be
better
back.
off without it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not
Gotcha.
knowing me and not having me there. And that's like,
Hmm.
because I had this relapse. I couldn't stop, no
Sure.
matter how hard I wanted to, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how many times I promised everybody, no
Mm.
matter how many times I truly meant that I would never do this again. I was once again in that position,
Mm-hmm.
and it just was taxing. It was
Yeah.
taxing for everyone around me too.
Yeah.
My mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncle, my brothers, right?
Right.
Especially my brother Nick. Nick and
Mm-hmm.
I are very close. We're 4.5 years, 5 years apart, and
Mm-hmm.
he's one of my best friends still today. And so Mike calls. as I'm about to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and I answer, and I just start crying. He's like, "What are you
Mm-hmm.
doing?" I start crying, and I tell him. It just
Mm-hmm.
comes out.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, look," he goes, "this is kind of crazy." He goes, "Well, we were thinking about you, and we had been at this conference. We had a dinner. We got back to Mark's place, and we had both been doing some prayer and meditation. We had thought about you." And he said, "Call that doctor kid's, call that
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
mom that has the kid
Yeah.
that works for the doctor, right?"
Right.
So they called, and it was really divine intervention. I look back at that later, and I saw that clearly, and I could feel it in the moment, and
Mm-hmm.
because I was just tears, I couldn't
Yeah.
control it. It was uncontrollable crying at that time, and
Right.
so, you know, he says, "Look, man, I want you to call your brother. I
Mm-hmm.
want you to ask him if you can go there. I'm gonna call your mom. I'm gonna get everything smoothed out." And he goes, "And have them buy you a plane ticket to Dallas." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, "For what?" "What do you mean go to Dallas?" He goes, "For
Mm-hmm.
treatment." I go,
Mm-hmm.
"Dude, we don't got no money. I've burnt everything to the ground. I got no insurance." I'm like, "I'm done." Right? And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, "No one friggin' asked you if you had money."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "Get a plane ticket to Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get you. We got you a scholarship to this treatment center.
Okay.
This is a long-term treatment center.
Right.
It was Burning Tree Ranch,
Okay.
and they scholarship me, and I was able to go through that program. I ended up coming down to Texas and everything. But let me
Mm-hmm.
add something to that, because there's build up into me kind of clearly feeling like God was showing me,
Right.
some things, right? And so
Right. So
I
you get
my
the call from out of nowhere, and
yeah,
then yeah.
yeah. And so next thing, I call my mom. She's like, "Hey, look, you can come here. You're not going to go to the Knicks. You're going to go
Mm-hmm.
to my house. You're going to stay tonight. Your uncle Roger, who's married to her sister, Aunt Kathy at the time, and Roger later passed away of cancer. He was battling brain cancer at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
she goes, "Look, Roger is going to pick you up, and in the morning. So be
Mm-hmm.
ready. You can't stay here. You're going to go to your Aunt Kathy's and Roger's, and So
Mm-hmm.
okay. So he picks me up, and I was already out on bond. I forgot to
Mm-hmm.
mention this. I was out on bail conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I go there. I got a detox there.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
I'm like cold turkey and at my aunt's, right? I didn't
Mm-hmm.
drink. I didn't do nothing. Have no
Right.
medication. Just some ibuprofen. It's uncomfortable. You know what?
Yeah.
My aunt Kathy and Roger, they're good people. They took good care of me, fed
Right.
me, kept me
There's
fluid.
there's a
Yeah,
bucket.
yeah, here,
Yeah.
and
Right.
they were just phenomenal in the
Right.
midst of Roger being sick with cancer. This that type of guy he was,
Yeah.
right?
Sure.
And that's something that really stuck with me. What type of
Mm.
human being that guy was, and I
Mm.
was nothing to him. He was married to my aunt,
Right.
and he treated me like family, right? And
Yeah.
so anyway, I'm there detoxing. I am watching the intervention show the night before I'm going to fly to Texas, right? The A and
Oh
E.
yeah. Uh-huh. I remember
Well,
that. Yeah.
well, it's about a guy that's at the facility I'm going to.
Oh wow.
This guy from South
Yeah.
Boston, right?
Uh-huh.
And I get to the facility, right? I show up there, my first weekend, and
Right.
he's at the facility. He looks great,
It's like God gave you a little preview.
good shape. He's in
Yeah.
good shape. It's been 6 months since the
Right.
episode was,
Uh-huh.
had showed. He looks great. He's getting ready to transition to the sober
Right.
living home. He looks
Yeah.
amazing, right?
So
And
it
he's
was
talking
like
to
you
me.
got to see the before and after.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh, he was brutal on
I
the
bet that
show.
and I bet that was very powerful.
It was.
Yeah.
And now I mentioned this. I had gone to a treatment center in Plymouth, New Hampshire prior to that, like a year prior.
Mm-hmm.
And I met this guy, Chris, there. And Chris and I went to a sober living house in Portland, Maine after.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, I was down at the Irish Heritage Club going to a meeting one day, and I'm riding home from the meeting in Portland. You can see anyone. They're walking down the street, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I see him and his head like shaved.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking down the street looking like something from the Michael Jackson Thriller video, right?
Right.
I'll never forget it. I'm like, what is going on? That night, he was a speaker at the meeting at
Oh
the treatment
wow.
center, and he looked phenomenal.
Right.
So I go up to him. I say, "Hey, man, you remember me?" And he goes, "Yeah. Oh my God, dude,
Mm-hmm.
long time no see." I go,
You're
"What have you been up to?"
alive.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
goes. I go, "Why? You look amazing. Where have you been? What have you been doing?" He goes, "Dude, I graduated from here about a year and a half ago."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Unreal. So God just like aligned the stars for me.
Yeah. Well, but it
And
also sounds like, it was you had your moment of surrender,
I did.
of true
I did.
surrender.
And I knew going into this place I was going to be there a year, probably 6 months in sober living. Like
Hmm.
everyone was very transparent with me about that because I was a
Right.
scholarship. They wanted me to be very clear on like what I was walking into,
Hmm.
and I'll be forever grateful for them.
Yeah.
Everyone that was involved that
Well, they
allowed
they
that.
saved your life.
They did. They put me
Yeah.
on a path to success. I didn't always do everything perfectly.
Hmm.
I bucked at certain things sometimes.
Right.
They crushed my ego when I needed it. They gave me some good clinical care at the time, and they supported me. And the best thing out of it all, I've made some lifelong friends I still talk to today.
Hmm.
Their own businesses were doing treatment. PHPs, IOPs, sober livings. Guys that are now CEOs, and it's
Hmm.
just cool. Like some of these guys I went through there with are still sober, killing it in life,
Right.
doing some great things to give back, and really just focus on helping people. And that's really what
Yeah.
they drove home to us while we were there. It was a lot of 12-step stuff, a lot of
Well, and
strong
I want to
accountability.
take this to point out, like a lot of people don't realize that aren't in recovery or new to it or whatever. But there's no real secret to AA and the 12 steps. Basically, admit you're powerless, and
Yeah,
that's the surrender, and then deal with your shit,
yeah,
and let that go, make amends, all that stuff, and move on with your life.
yeah,
Be okay with the fact that some shitty stuff happened in your life, and then pay it forward.
yeah.
And that keeps you out of having the pity party for yourself because you're helping others.
Right.
So it's like, and it's not really, you think, oh, traditions and all this stuff, and it's all culty, and it's really not, dude.
Now,
It's just a good business model that happens to really work.
it does. It does. And
Yeah.
I think, that was a thing that I learned there. Like, I remember telling a woman there one time that, hey, I've worked the steps,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're doing like a big book meeting. And she goes, oh, yeah. She says, what did that look like? And I said, well, I got through a 4-step, did a 5th step, wrote an amends list. She goes, okay, that's great. Did you do all your amends?
Mm-hmm.
I said, no. She goes, did you do any? I said, no. She goes, well, okay. Did you
What?
do prayer and meditation? Did you do 10 step? Did you help other people? I
Mm-hmm.
said, no. She goes, well, you didn't do the 12 steps. You're telling yourself a lie. You never
Right.
actually did it, you
Yeah.
know? And I was like, okay, well, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I just took it. It was like weird because usually I would fight those types of things at
You're
different
right.
times in my life
Yeah.
and,
You
try to
get
be
to
right
put
when
the
I'm wrong.
yeah, make the semantics.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like,
I
you're right.
technically worked the 12 steps. I just
Right,
didn't do them all.
right,
Right.
right. And so anyway, I get out of there, you know, um, life's good.
Mhm.
I'm like almost evangelical in some way.
Mhm.
You're gonna die. I'm kind of like crazy, right?
Right.
I think I know everything. There's a lot of ego wrapped up in that, in the
Mhm.
12-step stuff for me. And I'm sponsoring guys. I'm speaking at meetings. I'm got a H&I.
Mhm.
In a home group, and dude, I got wrapped up in a really sick relationship, which I
Mhm.
was the problem, right? I can't blame someone else,
Mhm.
and I had a lot of stuff, and man, I relapsed after
Wow.
that. 2 years
Wow.
later, relapsed for one night.
Mhm.
Um, Ended up in the hospital. Well, I blew about 5 grand in a night. Ended up
Yeah.
drove myself to Richardson Methodist.
Oh wow. Did you at least have a good time that night?
I had more than a good time.
Right?
You know, really wasn't a good time. I'll tell
Yeah.
you why. All I could think about was God. All I could think
Ah.
about was how I let my family down. All I could think
Mm.
about was like, I'm homeless. I
Right.
literally was homeless. I had
Yeah.
nowhere to go after that, right?
Mm. Mhm.
But I had met some good guys along the way. And so I'm in that hospital. I told some people I was there. Some guys show up.
Mhm.
And this is where I'll segue. But yeah, it's like some guys show up. And next thing you know, I'm like 2, 3 weeks sober after getting out of the hospital. I go to this guy's sober living home in Dallas. A friend of mine I had met who was a ops manager there.
Mhm.
like I'm like maybe 2-3 weeks in, they're like, "Hey, we need a house manager,"
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I have been a chef. I've been working over at the country club in Dallas, and
Right.
I've been doing all this stuff. And I'm like, all right. I was like, what's that entail? Does he get free room and board? I'm like, I'm in after he said that, but I let him
Mm-hmm.
finish. In my mind, selfishly, I'm taking this because I get free room and board. I'm not thinking
Right.
I get to help people, right?
Right. Sure.
But I fell in love with the work
Mm-hmm.
after that. I realized, like, wow, like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to be here, and I'm going to network, and I'm going to learn, and I was just hungry and ambitious, and I wanted to learn everything about sober living. I wanted to learn everything about PHP and IOP programs and outpatient programs, right? And sure enough, over time, I got to become like an operations guy,
Mm-hmm.
and then I slowly, behavioral health technician, then
Mm-hmm.
slowly worked my way into leadership roles over time, and I got to do some really cool things and be a
Mm-hmm.
part of some really great programs over the years and open and help start and develop and, have
Mm-hmm.
ideas and input in those things. And, yeah, so that was where I just kind of was like, hey, this is my purpose in life. Like, this is where God wants me. I definitely always go above and beyond the call of duty. I know
Mm-hmm.
I get paid to do my job,
Right.
so I don't look at that as 12-step work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but,
Yeah, there's a
but
fine line. Yeah.
there is. I sponsor guys still and mentor people and do stuff to help out,
Right.
but it's and I help mentor people professionally at times too that are
Right.
newer in the field and learning.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I go above and beyond the call of duty in this
Mm-hmm.
job. It never stops. It's 7 days a week. It's no, my work doesn't tell me that. That's just my choice, right?
Right.
I'm sure they'll let me say, hey, you don't have to answer your phone at midnight or 1 o'clock or two, but if
Right.
I'm awake, I'm on it, man. If someone
Sure.
calls and needs help, like I'm trying to help, right? And so
Right.
for me, it's my calling.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like work to me. It's something I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
I get to be a part of. It's a privilege, and it just
Mm-hmm.
so happens I do get to make a living out of it too.
Right.
But I go above and beyond to help men and women get the help they need, whether that's with Banyan or that's
Mm-hmm.
with another program
Mm-hmm.
or one of my mentors early on in my career, and I've had a couple really good ones I still talk to,
Mm-hmm.
but they always told me, they're like, Aaron, it doesn't matter, no matter who you talk to,
Mm-hmm.
always help. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if it's someone that's homeless or someone that's, got $1 million,
Right.
right? Like, or has an in-network policy. Like, no matter what, your job to help find them placement,
Mm-hmm.
in a place where they can get well. So it's
Mm-hmm.
your job to be an expert or what your resources are, and it's your job to
Sure.
get them there, right?
Right.
And I always took that to heart, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's something I've always prided myself in, is
Right.
trying to be an expert in my area, in my field, to the best of my ability, to be able to make sure when I get that call, I can help someone and know factually where they can go to get help.
Right.
Whether they're in,
Yeah.
dealing with homelessness, or they need a resource to help them get to where they need to go, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, um, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it all started. Was a little sober home in Dallas. This guy was one of the first people to open it, and then
Right.
I slowly got to be a part of some great things, and I got hired on at Banyan a year ago in August. So it'll be a
Right.
year.
Well, so how
And
long? How long are we looking at your sober window now? Like,
so
so from like
March
when?
3rd, 2010.
Okay. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
that's a lot of years, man. That's what, 15 years.
Approaching 16. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. In March. So
congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. And same thing with the field, really, because I was like 2 weeks sober working in the field.
Right. Right. Well, I
So
mean, but a lot of people that have been through it, automatically want to do that. Like, they automatically want to give back because
yeah.
they now have, a framework and a history that they can relate to those people and help those people. So
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of human nature. If you're, a decent person, you want to do that because, I mean,
Yeah.
I became an RSPS.
Oh yeah. Yep.
When I got out, because I didn't want to go to school and actually do the LCDC thing, but
Right.
but a lot of people do that, and I don't think it's a bad thing because you obviously learn from people's past, bad choices,
Right.
and now you can use what you did in your life, and help other people out, from your experience,
Absolutely.
and truly understand where they're coming from.
Right. And
Mm.
that's been the greatest gift, like of just going through everything I went through with my family, having a
Mm-hmm.
great, having those mended relationships with family and friends,
Mm-hmm.
but also like being in the field and being able to help navigate a mom or a dad,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
when someone says, "Hey, call Aaron, he can help," and then I get on the phone with them, and then within like 30, 40, 30, I always plan on an hour per phone call, maybe more,
Mm-hmm.
but in the usually 30, 40-minute window, when you got mom or dad or husband or wife that's
Yeah.
dealing with crisis with their loved one, trying to help them package it together and navigate them and give them some tools,
Right.
so they don't undermine them, undermine the process is huge,
Right.
and so I love that I've been able to have that experience as the guy that went through addiction, but also getting well and being able to be educated to navigate, you know, families or
Mm-hmm.
loved ones that are dealing with crisis with someone they really care about, and trying to help them, get to where they need to go to some, ethical program that's going to provide, compassionate, life saving
Right.
care,
Well, why don't
because
we get, while you're on that subject, why don't you shout out some programs that help the family? Because there's like Al-Anon and,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Al Anon's a great one. I
Mm-hmm.
actually did a little bit of Al Anon over at the Preston Group in Dallas back in the day. Someone
Okay.
said I needed it. I didn't agree,
Right.
but
Of course, dude.
I didn't agree with that,
Right.
but
That seems like a pattern.
yeah, but it was good. It was
Yeah.
good. I actually went and really dove into it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was helpful. So Al-Anon, and if you go, Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, those are all good fellowships.
Mm-hmm.
I a lot of times for myself when I go to a new city. So no matter where you are, if you have a phone, you can download an app.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's called Meeting Guide,
Yeah.
and it's for AA. Or you can just look on the web
I
if
think
you're
there's
looking
also
for,
one called Meeting Near Me
yeah,
as
something
well.
like
Yeah.
that. It might be for Apple or Android.
Yeah.
I'm not sure,
Sure.
but Meeting Guide. Anywhere I go, I always
Mm-hmm.
like to go to one meeting in the city I'm visiting. So
Yeah.
it's something I do for fun.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so I do that. But yeah, those are some groups that can be helpful. And then, of course, there's lots of resources in your area for coaching, family counselors.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you need more than Al-Anon,
Right.
and you need someone. So if you have the resources to be able to do that, that's always a great, where you can get some more one-on-one and, some
Mm-hmm.
coaching and guidance from somebody,
Right.
yeah, there's lots of good programs out here in the
Yeah.
DFW area. It's grown a lot over the
Right.
years, and there's lots of different providers
Well,
for,
and I love that, like, Chad went to Grace to Change,
Oh
which is
yeah,
McKinney, and
yeah,
I always like to shout them out because, they not only work with the addict, but they work with the family as well, and keep them involved, in the process because it is all about everybody kind of being on the same page,
yeah,
as far as that goes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest step for me when I got out of treatment for this time. Unlike all the other times, I didn't go back home. I
Hmm.
stayed in Texas, right?
Right.
And so even though I had that relapse on March, what, 2nd, 2010, and got sober on March 3rd, 2010,
Hmm.
I I didn't go home and I had had enough sobriety and structure and people around me and a taste of what real recovery was like, what
Right.
it was like to live in that world. And so, I think a lot of times, sometimes people have to go home. They got kids, they have other things, right?
Hmm.
But if you're a young man or woman and you can go and do aftercare and you have that, ability to not go home and
Hmm.
go live with your parents, I
Yeah.
strongly suggest you do it because it was something for me. It allowed me autonomy. It gave me independence. It allowed
Right.
me to grow into the man I was supposed to become, right? And like
Sure.
do things for myself and be responsible.
Right.
It was huge. It was
Well, and
huge.
I say that, and I keep on bringing Chad up, but
Yeah,
he was in jail for 2 years, and he'll
right.
tell you that he needed every bit of that. So that was
Yeah,
kind of his divine intervention, so to speak, because if he didn't have that time, of forced sobriety. You know, I mean, I know you can use inside,
Oh
but
yeah.
but
Yep,
if he
you
didn't
for
have
sure
that,
can.
if he didn't have that window, you know, he probably, you know, wouldn't. He probably would have relapsed. You
Right.
know, so
Right. No, I agree.
yeah,
Yeah, and so those are some of the things I like to tell families, like trust the
right,
process. I know you miss your kid. I
hmm,
know you miss your husband, your wife.
right,
Time's of the essence, 30 days is the beginning. Aftercare is vital, in
right,
this process, in 30 days, they're getting dried out. They're getting some education. They're gaining some tools,
hmm,
but being able to, go to that next level of care and have that support and that peer support
right,
and also show that they can do that outside of that setting, right?
hmm,
And gain
yeah,
some traction. I mean, that was huge for me and my confidence, right? And also
hmm,
the confidence in my family, and allowed my family a little time to be able
right,
to have some peace, to heal, to start to work on some things they needed to address, as
yeah,
well. And so, and then I got to a spot where I'm like, hey, I'm just going to stay here.
right,
This works, right?
hmm,
Like I've never done this, and
hmm,
and I love Texas. I've been here ever since.
right,
So it's Texas has strong AA, strong 12-step
hmm.
fellowships, lots of support,
I
and
would just go to, if I were you, I would just go visit in Maine in July and August.
yeah,
You know, because it's so freaking hot here.
October is a good time too to
Yeah.
see the leaves turning.
Well, no, I love October here. October here in Dallas is my favorite month.
It's beautiful.
But as far as the heat, like that's the only brutal thing about Texas is tornadoes and
Hail,
well, hail, yeah,
yeah.
and then the heat, the excessive heat, and the excessive heat is the worst part. But
Oh,
you know, it's like it's always that give and take, you know,
I
of
know.
certain spots.
But when you grow up in the cold and
Hmm.
you've dealt with snow
Yeah,
your whole
you're
life,
like, I
I
love
love
this.
it.
Yeah, right.
I love
Right.
being torched at 110
Right.
every
Sure.
summer. I'm like, I'll go
Right.
into a pool and
Right.
so
There you go. I love
yeah,
it. All
yeah.
right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on the show, and it was a very fascinating backstory, and good to hear it. And I appreciate you being so transparent.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, and I appreciate the service you guys do with this and the community, and
Right.
allowing us to bring some exposure to being a
Yeah.
person of hope, and that you can recover and get better, and also the resources available for the men
Right.
and women and families. So
Right.
I
Hey,
appreciate it.
yeah. And I was going to say, if you go ahead and give, like, if there's a contact where if somebody wants to get a hold of you, where can they
Yeah,
reach you?
absolutely. So, I'm Aaron Stacey. I work for Banyan Treatment Centers, and we're able to do substance use treatment in Texas, dual diagnosis, and we have other
Okay.
facilities
And
around the
where can they
country
get a hold of you?
that do mental health, and they can get a hold of me at 469-900-9811. You can call or text on that number,
Okay. Cool.
7 days a week.
That is
So.
good. That is good to know. And then also anybody you'd like to shout out.
Yeah, no, I mean, I just want to give a shout out to you guys.
Mm.
Appreciate your
Thank
time,
you.
you and Chad.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just want to thank, I always want to give a shout out to,
Parker.
Dr. Evans in heaven.
Right.
He
Oh, yeah.
was the guy that, probably kept me alive. My good friend Michael Smith,
Hmm.
he was another guy that intervened on me and, helped me get to Texas, and has
Hmm.
been a friend and mentor ever since, right?
Cool.
And Parker,
Yeah.
Parker from D Town Custom Jewelers, he
There we
was
go. Shout
my
out.
first sponsee, man. I love him to
Yeah.
death.
I love
That's
it.
the promises. They
Yeah.
become family, right?
Right.
So yeah,
And
he's
y'all and
family
y'all have
forever.
and y'all have Master P in common.
We do, we do.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
he knows that story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Me and
hilarious,
Parker have
man.
had a lot of fun, man, together over the years, and
That's cool, man.
yeah,
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Then be sure and tune in. Oh yeah, be sure and like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff to the podcast. And then next week we've got some. Actually, a friend of mine, Julia, and we're going to talk about ADHD and also some addiction stuff. But be sure and join us next week. And then remember, kids, there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.